Hi, I'm Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join us as we chat with industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favorite TV and radio personalities, asking the renewable energy questions that you want answers to. Our goal, a zero carbon future. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Dean Williamson, Country Manager for GoodWe Energy. Dean, how are you today?
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Rosh. How about yourself?
I am very well, thank you. Great to see you again. It seems like only moments ago that I last saw you.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, how you been?
Yeah, really, really well, thank you. It's been an absolutely crazy few weeks. The TV show, which is obviously what we're here to talk about, has been going really, really well. We had some incredible feedback. And look, it's just been absolutely amazing. So super inspiring few weeks. And we've still got more to go, including this week's episode of Energy Matters, which is on Saturday, 4 p.m. on 9 Life, and featuring GoodWe once again. But I have to say, this week's episode is probably going to be one of my personal favorites. None more so than because I traveled to China and I got to see GoodWe up close and personal. And oh my God, like seriously, I was absolutely blown away. I knew it was going to be amazing. I'd heard lots of rumors about what to expect and what I was going to see, but being there in person and just walking around your facilities was just like another level. Anyway, before I get into that, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you just do a quick introduction as to who you are, what you were doing prior to GoodWe, and how you found GoodWe Energy?
Sure. My name's Dean Williamson, Country Manager of GoodWe Australia and New Zealand. I've been at GoodWe for now 6 years. And prior to that, I was with another inverter manufacturer for a similar amount of time. So been in the industry for a little while now, and it's ever evolving. And I think right now we're going through one of those really exciting transition periods where, you know, we're seeing a huge uptake of storage, not just residentially, but commercially. And yeah, really excited to be playing a small part in that.
No, absolutely amazing, mate. And look, GoodWe's a brand that everyone's synonymous with, you know, quality and affordability, right? So anyone that's in the industry, you know, knows as an installer, as a retailer, that, you know, they have the opportunity to offer their customers an incredible, you know, solar system, and really hit the mark in terms of affordability. So it's really, you know, it really has that sort of onus, if you like, of being able to giving access to everybody in terms of high quality technology. But I guess one of the things, and just talking about this week's episode and why this is so important to me, is, you know, there's been a real stigma for years and years and years in Australia about Chinese manufactured equipment. And I think what anyone kind of would realize if they looked around the home and looked at the labels on the back of their televisions, their phones, their laptops, every single type of appliance or item of clothing, that majority of it does come from China. So I've never really understood why there is that stigma about, oh, it's not as good quality if it comes from China. So I think for us at Energy Matters, you know, when we're producing this TV show, it was really important for us to actually go to China and to see it for ourselves. Because although we know the technology being manufactured out there is absolutely incredible, it was just what we were really excited to see was the level of sophistication in terms of the factories, you know, from a manufacturing perspective, but also to understand and see firsthand, you know, the research and development, the teams working inside of those buildings, the environment that they're working inside of, and really that work-life balance and culture that gets created in those environments too. You can read the Murdoch media, no disrespect to anyone working there, but you can read the media and see all those different articles and things that are being published that kind of like really sort of have you question what's happening out there. But when you actually go to China yourself and see it firsthand, it's absolutely inspiring. I mean, what were your thoughts when you first went out there and checked at HQ?
Yeah, I mean, we were blown away. We'd seen pictures and videos and all that sort of stuff, but you know, we were really blown away by the level of sophistication, also sustainability, but it really had that wow factor. And we were lucky that we were taking a bunch of our distributors there at the same time. So it was really special to be able to see that with some of your key partners as well. But the building itself, it's 22 floors high. Our sales, management, marketing all work from that office. But in there, we've got an auditorium, and a showroom, which was really, really important for us when we were showing customers around there and we were having meetings. The showroom itself is really impressive because we've basically got like a little house within that showroom, with solar and energy storage. And we basically simulate a home and we show them where the power flow is going. And it's just a really good opportunity to be able to showcase the battery storage, the EV chargers, all these things and how they all integrate as one. And it also looks really futuristic, which is fantastic. But a third of the building space is dedicated to living plants to improve the air quality, provides that pleasant working environment, regulates the temperature. We've also got the whole system designed with vertical shading, photovoltaic modules based on the curtain walls layout. And the south and the east facades of the podium from the 3rd to the 5th floor also use PV curtain walls. And we've got Polaris carports for parking. So Polaris is a panel we've got for carports. We've got a heap of our EV chargers in there. The system itself, there's a few megawatts of system, and it produces over 3.3 million kilowatt hours of electricity each year.
Wow.
Which is really, really significant. So, the team at headquarters have done an amazing job. And, and we also joined the UN Global Compact, which is dedicated to fulfilling our corporate social responsibility requirements. And, we don't just want to do this as a requirement. This is really something that we preach. And so we're trying to put that on display and really celebrate that.
I mean, when anyone watching this week's episode, 4 p.m. on 9 Live Saturday, just in case you forgot, was, when you see this building, the headquarters for GoodWe Energy, I mean, it literally is a jaw-dropping moment because you've seen maybe on TV or heard about like Google and, sort of like other organizations have incredible offices. But you don't expect to see this from a manufacturer of solar panel or solar products, right? Renewable energy technology. And so when you just see it, when you're just driving up to it, the place looks absolutely magnificent. But when you walk in, it's like being in a science and technology museum. I mean, it's just literally pristine, and but it's so inspirational. And what I loved most about it was just walking around. It's almost like taking a journey through, it does look futuristic, as you said, but it's taking a journey into what's actually available right now. And what that building represents is, how you can actually transform a corporate tower into almost like a net zero building, but utilizing almost every single function and component of that building to generate its own energy. And as you said, the carports, you expect to have carports, right? But the fact you've actually got the BIPV products, you've got the actual, the windows, the roof, you name it. There's just like every single type of, of renewable energy production in that building. And then you see that model that you have, which is an incredible model of the entire building and its surrounds. And that's when the penny drops. This is renewable energy. This is renewable energy. This is renewable energy.
That's the nature of the technology. It's constantly evolving, constantly getting better. Refinements are being made, improvements are being made. All of our componentry comes from top 500 companies in the world, and we have very stringent standards with our raw materials and components. And if it doesn't meet those standards, it doesn't go in our products.
I mean, it's absolutely magnificent. You must be so proud that the team that you work with, the brand that you work for, has actually, chosen to say, look, you know what? Yes, we manufacture a lot of products, and we're probably up there as one of the market leaders globally. But let's actually just walk the talk as well, and show the rest of the world what they could also be doing in their own headquarters or their own building.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you said, everything within that building you walk past nearly has some sort of PV integrated into it. But it does make you really proud, to work for a company that is, not just selling inverters and batteries and saying, look, we're making a massive difference, but it's all the other little things that I think make the difference, which is, really practicing what you preach, trying to be at the forefront of the innovation as well. It's always really exciting if you think, you're leading the race in some way in terms of innovation, and getting the balance right, between innovation and having cost-effective products from an engineering side, but also really listening to what the market wants. And that's one thing that I was really impressed with GoodWe when I started there, is how much they're willing to listen to us. And so on a regular basis, we have our R&D leaders from China coming over to Australia, and they want you to take them everywhere. They want to know as much about the market as possible, so that, when we tell them, hey, look, this is an emerging trend, this is a market, there's an opportunity here, we want to be the first ones, we want to be at the forefront to capture that market. They really listen to you, and they'll develop the product just specifically for your market. That it doesn't have to go into 35 or 40 other markets. They'll trust that you guys can get the results, and they'll back you. So, it is a pleasure.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing I was, really, once I managed to get my jaw back up and walk around the different facilities. We then toured your manufacturing facilities as well, and just chatting to the guys in research and development. It was so inspiring, because once again, they're so passionate about what they do. They're so passionate about the technology. But the one thing that really hit home is how everybody wants to make a difference and wants to transform our planet and really reduce our carbon footprint. And, I just thought, they're just going to be really tech heavy and say, this is, we've got the latest and greatest product. But everyone was just, off the back of every conversation I had, it's like, look, we just want to be able to help the planet, essentially, hit his renewable energy goals, but more importantly, help our planet, and that was really, present to those conversations on research and development, because obviously you're constantly pushing the status quo. You're maintaining a really economical price point so everybody has the opportunity of having access to the technology. So you're having to do, have this perfect balance between amazing technology and maintaining price points. How many people do you actually have in research and development over there around the world?
So we've got over 1,000 employees now in research and development.
Wow.
GoodWe has over 5,000 employees, so 20% of those are effectively in R&D. 8% of our revenue goes back into R&D. It's really at the forefront of what we do. The business itself was started back in 2010 by Daniel Huang. He has done a wonderful job of scaling that business, and it sounds cliche, but the goal was not to just start the business to make money. He really wanted to make an impact, with the transition to renewables. And, he really ambitious, doesn't want to just be a player in the game, but wants to be the leader in the game. And, and it's wonderful for us and the employees to be going along for the ride. And now, to his credit and to the team, they've installed over 71 gigawatts of installation of GoodWe products in over 100 countries. So, they're just getting started, but it's really exciting.
It really is. And it's so good that we're actually seeing the uplift as well. Obviously, we're seeing it here in Australia. Rooftop solar now for residential homes is as common as muck. I mean, no matter where you go, you're going to see a solar power system on the roof. And if you haven't got one yet, you really should do. And then really with the emergence of solar power for businesses and industry as well as all the, the large scale projects, utility scale, it's absolutely phenomenal. And one thing that really, I was super excited to see in China, and I did, and we're going to see, you guys are going to see this on Saturday, was the manufacturing facilities. And, I've obviously seen the technology up close and personal. It's dear to my heart, as you know. But watching the inverters and the batteries and all the different components being manufactured in those facilities was mind-blowing, because I wasn't too sure what to expect initially. But it's so sophisticated. It literally was, and I've referred it several times. I probably won't make the actual final cut, but I just kept thinking I was in Terminator, because everywhere I was walking was just like, robots. robots doing everything. And there's certainly a few people around, and you've obviously got a lot of staff there too. But the level of robotics and sophistication and automation was absolutely mind-blowing. And it just kept the entire factory floor flowing constantly. A little robot, getting a big arm, robotic arm loading on pallets, little robots taking those pallets, kind of saying thank you, moving on to the next section of the factory. Another robot arm picking that up, putting it onto the belt, and then those products just moving along. And then you constantly had staff and people just doing checking and balances, dotting I's, crossing T's, making sure things were working the way they should do. And then little stations as well, where they're just quality control. And I think that's one of the things that really sort of, really inspired me the most, was how much quality control takes place in that factory at the right time. So really, from an efficiency perspective, I mean, it really does have you manufacture high volumes of product, but maintaining such high standards.
Yeah, and I guess the naysayers out there will say, a lot of the things are moving towards robotics and AI, and isn't that taking away from jobs on the factory floor? And I can't speak for all the industries. For us, it's not the case. The reason is, yes, we're definitely investing in robotics, in AI, but at the same time, it allows us to even invest more heavily in quality control. And as you said, we've still got a lot of people on the floor that are heavily involved in quality control. Every single component that goes into our inverters and battery products, everything, has a barcode there. So we know if anything ever happens to fail, we know we can track that back to who put it in, where it was put in on the factory floor. Just really enhances your diagnostics so that that you can always get better. But at least we have that accountability, and and it's a massive part of the future, that's for sure. And I think in the next few years we're going to see AI become a huge part of the solar industry, not just in terms of the manufacturing, but also particularly from service and a diagnostic side, that'll become really handy to installers, and installers on site will be able to get answers really, really quickly as a result.
Absolutely, because I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things when something goes wrong. There's a process that everyone has to go through in order to to understand what the problem was. A fair bit of research. Back in the day, we'd be going through piles and piles and piles of books and sort of files and data packs, just understanding. Okay, let's diagnose exactly what's going wrong. In this scenario, AI just takes the work, takes the load out of it. It has it happen so quickly. I think just quickly before I move on to the advancements in technology, and just back onto the the use of people in that factory. I remember when I was a kid, at university, and I'd come home for my sort of summer break and had to earn some cash to take back. And I remember working in several factories, and one of the factories I worked at was a bread factory. And it was like, sort of big pallets which had to load up with bread, and then they go through to another section. And I just remember like picking up these huge pallets of bread, and every single day I'd get home on morning because it was night shift. My back would be absolutely caning, and I played football as well, so I was always like having to sort of balance that out in terms of warming up and going through pain each day. And I kind of expected to see that in the factory. And what was really amazing to see was the team there are all super busy, but they're not doing anything backbreaking. They're actually doing what they're really good at, which is being humans and using that human element to do the checks and balances and make sure things are working the way they should be working, and keeping an eye on the autonomous side of the organization. So I really praise, GoodWe for that, because it does show that you actually are looking after your team and ensuring you're playing your team to their strengths, as opposed to putting them into a situation where potentially they could actually injure themselves. So, and that was manufacturing back in the day, and things have evolved and changed, and there's been a lot of great things in place now across the board in manufacturing. But to see it firsthand at your particular facility, it was really nice and really great to know that that team's actually being looked after. And the facilities available to the team, by the way, the food was amazing. But the action, but just to see that was incredible. As you said earlier about the emergence of technology, I mean, from a GoodWe perspective, I mean, you've already done so much. I mean, that building's incredible, as you're going to see on Saturday. The manufacturing facilities are amazing. I mean, how much better can it get? I mean, obviously the emergence for AI is going to be important to you. Do you see now that there's an opportunity to grow even further and to even expand the technology more so than what it is today?
Yeah, I think at the moment is probably nearly the most exciting time in terms of the development of technology. It's absolutely not slowing down. It's speeding up at a significant rate. Products will become a lot easier to commission, like super fast to commission. Again, this will be due to AI. And then also, I think in terms of scalability, we're growing at a fast rate. Just the economies of scale make everything a little bit easier as well. We not only have the manufacturing facility in China, we've got 2 of them, but we've also opened a manufacturing facility in Vietnam. And, and as I said, we're selling products now in over 100 countries as well. I think what we're seeing in the industry is that a lot of these OEMs are now not just specializing in one core component, but they're really trying to diversify and start manufacturing the holistic approach. And I think the winners are really the consumers, because now they have the ability to buy the whole solution from GoodWe, not just ourselves, but they can buy the whole solution from GoodWe. We take accountability of the full system. It all talks to each other. It integrates, and then home energy management is something that everyone's starting to become familiar with. So I think and at the same time, homeowners are learning really, really quickly how to manage their energy. So no, I think it's a really exciting time, and you're going to see a lot of changes over the next 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely. And look, just on a personal level, understanding how the solar is being produced, when it's, how much energy is being produced at that time, how much is being stored by the batteries, and then, all at the palm of your hands, and then being able to understand when is the best time to turn my air conditioning on, the dishwasher, the washing machine. We always said as salespeople back in the day to selling residential solar power, turn on all your appliances on during the daytime because that's when the solar power is working. But now you can actually see how much solar power is being produced at every single moment. So when the precise moment is to actually turn on those appliances. So you're only ever using green electricity. You're not buying from the grid, which means you can completely say thanks for being connected to the grid and thanks to the energy retail distributor. But now I'm completely in control and have my own independence, and I'm using what I'm actually producing, using what I'm producing, and finally have that sort of grid independence that you've always wanted. So it really is amazing having that technology available to every single person that actually owns a renewable energy system. And for those of you who don't, my advice simply is that there's a reason why you haven't got solar power or battery storage right now, and a lot of the time it is going to be down to the economics. So renewable energy technology today is so affordable. And, but just jumping onto even our website or, doing your own research to find solar power retailers, what you'll understand is that solar power systems can be, individually tailored to your needs. And secondly, there's pricing packages or there's payment plans available to you. So you don't really have to spend the upfront capital on getting a solar power system. If you've got it, great. But if you haven't, there's payment plans available to you and finance plans. And then if you consider how much money you're currently spending on your electricity bills, let's say it's $200 a quarter or $600 a quarter. In my case, it was $1,000 a quarter. And how much you're going to actually that $1,000 a quarter that you're actually spending on electricity. If you could offset the majority of that with a solar power system, like panels and batteries, and then you put that back into a payment plan, you're pretty much going to be you're going to get no extra money out of your back pocket. In a lot of cases, potentially maybe a bit of a difference. But then secondly, you've got your return on investment in a few years, if not sooner. So it's definitely worth investigating. And, more importantly, for me, by you reducing your carbon footprint, you're reducing your energy bills. So it works hand in hand. So you may be looking to save your energy bills. By doing so, you're going to reduce your carbon footprint and vice versa. So it's a great thing to do. Dean, any final words for anyone out there, especially when I'm looking at your actual headquarters as something to inspire other people that actually either build skyscrapers or large office buildings, or those that actually own them and have the ability to say, you know what, it's about time we actually, declared our ESG targets for the year or for the next few years. And secondly, there's an opportunity for us now to achieve net zero with our own headquarters. What advice would you give to those guys?
My advice would be is to not just simply look at the rooftop and say, potentially how much PV can I fit on this roof? Because a lot of certainly skyscrapers or anything like that, they have limited room on the roof. But there's a lot of other opportunities to integrate solar PV. The building integrated photovoltaics industry, or BIPV, as we call it, and we've set up our own division as a result, is going to be a big part of the future. And so there's a lot of other ways that you can integrate it, whether it's the panels on the side, whether it's shading, whether it's carports, integrating electric vehicle chargers. It's certainly the way of the future. And, we always encourage people to try and create a sustainable footprint. You can even go one step further and try and be carbon positive as well. So, look, that's what I would say. And the only other piece of advice I would give anyone is that, because we do a lot of consumer events and we have a lot of people come up to us, and probably the most popular question that we receive is, I've got solar, are batteries worth it? And I think if we just make it simple for the consumers to understand that your solar PV system will offset your daytime usage. If we're talking about batteries, the idea is to try and offset your nighttime usage. So the single thing that I would tell people is get a consumption meter installed, or try and understand what you're consuming. That's probably nearly the most powerful tool you can have, because if you can understand what you're consuming, you can design the system to suit, and you can let them make the decision as to whether they think it's worth it or not. So for example, let's just say you work out that you're using 10 kilowatts of power at night. They can then work out a battery to cover effectively 10 kilowatts, and then they'll understand the costs, and then they can work out the ROI and decide if that's worth it for them. So that's the piece of advice.
Mate, that's some fantastic advice, and I think that's pretty much the same advice I was given before my system went on. So thank you so much, Dean, for joining us today. You've been absolutely awesome as always, and you're turning into a TV star, by the way. So I've got to watch for my back, mate. I mean, you may be taking my spot on season 2 at this rate, but it's been a pleasure chatting to you once again.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, thanks very much again, Rosh. Appreciate it.
Nice one. Thanks, mate. So, guys, you heard it here first. Once again, it really is an opportunity to be inspired. Watch on Saturday at 4 p.m. on 9 Life, our latest episode of Energy Matters. It's going to be an absolute cracker. I mean, once again, for me and for yourselves, it's a real eye-opener to actually see how technology is being manufactured and utilized, especially on GoodWe's headquarters, which just needs to be seen to be believed. It's incredible. If you guys have yet to go solar or are kind of intrigued to say, okay, it's about time I got a quote for solar for either my home or for my business, then please jump onto our website, energymatters.com.au, and check out our page to get a free quote. We'll be able to connect you to local installers in your particular area for both residential and commercial solar power. So really, it's an opportunity to identify and find out how much solar power is going to cost you, what do you actually need, get an expert to actually go through your bills and talk you through the process. And then if it works for you and you can find, the numbers work out and there's an opportunity financial plan or a cash point plan or a cash amount that's going to work for you, great, go for it, take the plunge, and you won't, you'll never look back and think, I wish I didn't do that. You'll just be so thankful that you did. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. Enjoy the episode on Saturday. I'll see you next time.